In the arms of the angel.
I was very happy when he stood behind the Oval Desk and sees SpaceX tonight before midnight.
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they?
And indeed they are. Bringing up today will be Alex Stein to discuss this topic. He's a comedian, host of Primetime with Alex Stein on Blaze TV, known as Primetime 99. He has gone viral for many things, including ambushing that young lady you just saw right there. You can follow him on X, Alex Stein 99, SEIN, and YouTube, Primetime Alex Stein. Of course, they're at Primetime Alex Stein, X at Alex Stein 99. And we are going to get into it today. And we have also your questions on the Restream and on the Rumble Rants. We're watching all of it. See their questions for Alex's fans that want him to ask me things on the Rumble Rants. We'll get into that and more right after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. Very excited to bring Alex in here in just a second. Also, I am so hot on weight loss, fitness, longevity, those vShredMD, vShredMD.com supplements I designed. I'm very excited about it. It's NR, PQQ, and also resveratrol and phycin. Particularly after the age of 30, 40, everyone should be thinking about this. Check it out. I take it myself. Susan takes it. These are things that I think measurably affect our sustained health, our sustained wellness, and our longevity. So
I think it's helping my joints.
Well, she said that too, and it's possible the phycin resveratrol is. That's possible. And I'm very worried about our natural killer cell health right now. So I'm designing things that will help enhance natural killer. It turns out that COVID and COVID vaccine is knocking down our natural killer function. And these are the cells that when the genetic errors occur that are inevitable as we age, we call that a cancer. The natural killers sweep in and clean it all out. That last line of defense is not working right after COVID. Resveratrol boosts that, so I'm red hot on that. All right, Alex Stein, as I said, comedian, Primetime with Alex Stein on Blaze. You can follow him on X, Alex Stein 99, and at Primetime Alex Stein on YouTube. Alex, welcome to the program.
Dr. Drew, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It feels surreal. I've watched you for so many years, and I know you don't want me to come here and kiss your butt, but to be on your show, it is truly an honor. Thank you, Dr. Drew.
You know what's so fascinating about talking to you and your fandom, let's call it, is that your perception is that therefore everybody knows who I am. And you got to remember, we live in a world that is so fragmented that, everyone has their own little zone of who they know and what they follow. And, the guys like influencers tend to have more fans than I do right now. And the other thing, think about the fact that like 30 to 40% of the country does not know who Johnny Carson is. You know what I mean? And I've been doing media for a long time.
Yeah, Dr. Drew, this is the problem, is you're only on top for so long. If you look at like professional wrestling, Hulk Hogan is only on top for so long. But when I look at you, Dr. Drew, you're an icon. And I'm not saying we're going to kiss each other's butt the whole time, but I see a guy like Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz, obviously likable guy, had a successful TV show. But when it comes to TV resume, yours is much longer. You've had more hit shows. You've been, on Celebrity Rehab, Teen Mom. I would think that on the zeitgeist of television, you'd even had a bigger, as a doctor, a TV doctor, a bigger impact than Dr. Oz. And then I see him in the Trump administration and not you. And it kind of makes me frustrated because you actually have the cojones to speak out against some of these pharmaceutical companies that aren't doing the American people the benefit that they owe us. So I just appreciate you, Dr. Drew, more so because you did have Alex, you had that turn.
Yeah. Well, but let me tell you about that. So they have sniffed around for me to do stuff, and Susan and I have discussed it. And I really think, first of all, I don't. Some of these jobs, I don't like. They were looking at me at Samsung and things like that. I said there's certain things that you can. If you hire me to shut these things down, maybe I'll think about it. But if you want me to actually run some of these things that I've been running amok for all these years, I don't dig it. And I think I can be more effective in targeted way and using PR, helping them with PR and things. I just think I'll be more effective that way. But I suspect I'll be called upon to do something. I suspect that's coming. And if it's something that I really have an expertise in, that it's going to be hard to say no, particularly if it's just for a short period of time.
Well, and obviously, people, and Donald Trump has gotten a lot of heat for not being, I guess, anti-pharmaceutical or anti-vaccine enough. But I have to admit, before the vaccine came out, people acted like everybody's going to get the vaccine and die. Obviously, that's not the case. Some people had some adverse side effects to the vaccine. A small amount of people, they downplayed that, but it's not as bad as they say. So I think Donald Trump is trying to do the best that he can. But Dr. Drew, you and I both know that the medical healthcare system that we currently have in the United States does not care about making people healthy. It just cares about, in my opinion, keeping people sick. So I think it's a bigger problem that Donald Trump or his administration can fix in 4 years.
Well, RFK Jr. certainly would kind of agree with you on that. I don't know if it's as quite as clear as the way you stated it, but he is in that zone for sure. And he has put great people in place. As you know, Oz is a brilliant surgeon. He's a really good guy, really bright guy. Macri, is very good. He's very insightful. He knows what he's talking about. Jay Bhattacharya is, oh my God, he is my hero. And so the fact that he's in there at the NIH is these are people that will get stuff done. They feel good about what their probabilities are of getting the work done that they want to get done. We got to give them time. I mean, the bureaucracy is so huge and so ensconced and so full of its own self-importance. And by the way, busy undermining and hiding out and obfuscating. They got to get in there and clean house systematically. DOJ has managed to do it, by the way. DOJ, it's either like, hey, do this work or we're going to hire people that will. The HHS is not quite able to do that. But DOJ is a good model for how things are getting done.
Yeah, but Dr. Drew, my good friend Tucker Carlson, a guy that helped me out a lot, I wouldn't even probably be on your show if it wasn't for him noticing me. But he just had a doctor on talking about these SSRIs. We overprescribe these SSRIs to people like crazy, and I would think, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, but this is mine. I would say, and I'm not a doctor like you. You're much smarter than me, but I think that we do have a cure to depression. Wouldn't that be a healthy diet and exercise, not being overweight? I mean, doesn't that cure depression? Am I crazy for thinking that, or is that anecdotal for me to have that opinion?
So. I no, it's not. But it's a little more complicated than that. So I want to talk about Musk and President Trump in just a second, but I do want to dig into this with you first, which is that, look, I worked in a psychiatric hospital for 30 years, and I thought I knew something about psychiatry when I started working there. I didn't know shit. And it took me 10 years to develop a reasonable level of expertise. And part of that expertise is ascertaining the difference between ordinary misery, which we've lost track of completely in this country. Ordinary misery is a good thing. Misery puts us under stress, not distress. It stresses us when we lean in, we develop competency and resiliency and self-efficacy. We've gone through the last 20 years of avoiding ordinary misery, and frankly, I'm disgusted with that, and it harms people. Lockdowns were a great example of that.
We need anxiety. Everybody wants to be anti-anxiety, but we need some anxiety so you'll get off your butt and go to work. You need a little anxiety. That's good for a human being.
Yes. One of the Sentinel books on anxiety right now is called it's called something like Lean In. I'm forgetting the name of it, but somebody will tell me on the Restream or whatever. And it's great, and particularly for people with panic, it works great. You lean into your discomfort, and guess what you learn how to do? You learn how to manage it. You regulate your emotions, and that is the stuff of life and competency. When I was a resident, are you kidding? I was uncomfortable all the time. But what did I do? I jumped in harder, and you know what? Because of that, it started getting easier. I developed resiliency. It paid huge dividends in terms of my training because I saw and did everything. And so here we go, everybody. Safe spaces are anathema to mental health. They're disgusting. It's time we stop all that. If people are discomfort, they're welcome to bring it up, but you better damn well lean into it or you're going to be severely impaired as you go through life. So there's ordinary misery, number one. Number two, mild depression. What do we do with mild depression, anxiety, even with occasional panic? Should that be pharmacologically treated? Probably not. Should it be treated at all? Maybe not. Your point is well taken. It's a little classical music and exercise measures comparably against that kind of depression, against anything else professionals do. Should you maybe avail yourself of looking at why you're depressed and seeing if you can, again, lean into that? Can you develop a community? Can you be of service to people? Can you, whatever it is, start to manage these things? And if they've not gone on more than a couple of months, maybe kind of learn to manage yourself and then get a therapist if you want, or some clergy, whatever you want to support you, a good friend to support you as you manage these things. So that's the second case. The third case is clinically relevant depression. And people, you have to be really trained to ferret out what is real depression, major depressive disorder. In fact, I'm having seen it for 30 years, I'm not even sure I trust myself. I'd want a psychiatrist to tell me, yeah, that's what this is. We've got to treat this thing. And then the medicines can be life-threatening. So we at once overtreat and undertreat, because people with real depression sometimes don't get the care they need. But within today's world with telehealth and whatnot, it should be simple enough for this to be put in the hands of the patients and families, and people get the care they need. But just be careful in terms of, I really worry about the nihilism. Like, let's remove everything. Let's get rid of all vaccines. Let's get rid of all meds. These things have utility. We just overdo it. And the way the system is set up in medicine, we don't take the time necessary to really do the work on behalf of the patient. We just open our prescription pad, which is also disgusting.
Well, speaking of, different, therapies for anxiety and depression, Elon Musk fighting with Donald Trump, and they're saying that he was on a ketamine bender, but I don't know if that's possible because I haven't looked much into ketamine therapy, but the impression that I've gotten is that, Dr. Drew, you can answer this, obviously. When you do the ketamine therapy, do you take the ketamine home or do you do it at the office? Because I'm under the impression you do it all at the office.
Well, usually, the ketamine has been sort of... because, clinicians can use medicine however they think is in the best interest of the patient, not necessarily the way it's designed. Ketamine is designed as an IV infusion under anesthesia, supervision. 6 treatments on average have been shown to be useful for recalcitrant depression. That's what it's used for. Now, people also use it for guided therapies, and they also have a nasal spray that you can take home. And people are getting their hands on the nasal spray and overusing it. But ketamine is a sleep-inducing medicine, really. I mean, it's well, kind of has some opioid qualities, but yeah.
Dr. Drew, I have to interject because I did ketamine one time. This is a long time ago, about 2009 at Hangout Music Festival, and I got in what was called a K-hole. I was right out of college, or I think I was in college my senior year. They gave you ketamine. It was like, I thought it was like, some cool thing. A Special K. I thought it was some cool thing. It was like a powder. Put it in my nose. I'm telling you, I got locked up, Dr. Drew, and I was in a pool. They were really worried. They had to pull me out of a pool. It was actually really fun. I know it sounds kind of scary now talking about it. At the time, it was actually very, very fun. My point is, I know it was scary. My point is, and I'm not encouraging somebody to do that, I got all locked up from doing it. So this is a strong drug. I mean, I don't know why you would prescribe this for somebody's mental health. This is like how a person that has depression, they say they drink a little bit. How could you ever heal your brain if you're taking alcohol by constantly, causing brain damage? It's like, how can you heal your depression by taking ketamine? That probably causes some sort of hangover or rebound effect after taking it.
So again, I don't advocate for anybody with addictive pathology taking ketamine. I've seen it trigger relapses, number one. Number two, it is for recalcitrant depression. People who've tried everything else. That's really what it's designed for. So yeah, I agree with you. You don't mess around with that stuff. Now, so what did we see with Elon this last couple of days? We saw him get agitated and irritable and inflated, we call that, and he didn't perceive risk normally. He also may not have seen the social consequences of what he was doing. Of course, he is self-identified as having autism or Asperger's. And so when you add all that up, it could be drug-induced. Ketamine is not one of the drugs I would pick. I mean, occasionally people get into an agitated state from it when they use a lot of it, but I don't know. That one would be a hard one for me if he were using it. The guy would not have been as effective as he has been. I mean, I don't see how he could function on even modest amounts of ketamine. Stimulants, could that do this? Sure. Have I seen evidence of him using stimulants? No. But and by the way, I admire you. Are you a fan of Elon Musk?
Yeah, I am. And what he's done with Twitter, I think is incredible. And I think that he is right about this bill is obviously bloated. But all of these bills are bloated. See, Dr. Drew, it's a uniparty. Donald Trump, he kind of, they give us the illusion it's right versus left. And I'm sure they don't all like Donald Trump. But really, at the end of the day, it's just all one big party. And they're kind of against us. And that's just how I feel. So this bill is probably bloated. And now they're going to retroactively go and try to trim this bill. That sounds very counterintuitive when it comes to managing the government. So I think he's right about this and having a gripe about it. But is this worth blowing up your whole friendship with Donald Trump, the most powerful guy in the world? There has to be more to the story that we don't know.
Not only that, I mean, the budgetary process is complicated. This is a reconciliation bill. It's not actually the spending bill. Spending bill comes up in October or something. And the plan is to get this in place so they could do that, and they get all kinds of other concessions tiled into this thing. So the workings of our federal government is so complicated. I'm seeing the guys at the HHS struggle with it. I mean, just imagine the entire federal government or the entire budgetary process. It's just too much for my little brain. But I have a little bit of faith that these guys are really kind of chipping away at it and trying to work at it. But I think the point that Elon brings up, and I'll have you comment on this, if we don't do something about the budget, we're dead.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, every year the national debt just gets more and more. And what is debt? And this is a little secret. I'm not a smart guy, but Dr. Drew, when you die, there's very few things that you can take with you. And one of those things that you can take with you is actually credit card debt. You're not responsible for your parents' credit card debt when they die. So my point is, what is debt? We have debt. We're borrowing against ourselves. So yes, I would like to balance the budget, but Trump's not going to be able to balance the budget. So really, is that going to affect our everyday lives? I mean, I think I'm more worried about inflation. I think I'm more worried about the price of gas and the price of food in grocery stores. So I don't know how this bill really affects that. But when it comes to Elon Musk trying to make our lives easier, I think he's trying. Obviously, I just don't know where the disconnect is right now when it comes to him and Trump's relationship.
Yeah, I think Elon. Well, Trump said something really different. He goes. He was really interesting. He goes, I'm good friends with these people, and then they leave the White House. I think they kind of they miss it, and they feel left out, and they get upset. And he goes, I don't know, they call it Trump derangement syndrome, he said. And I thought, oh my God, he's naming it now as Trump derangement. He goes, I don't know what it is. And he's been very sort of dismissive of the whole thing and letting it kind of run its course.
Well, Dr. Drew, it's so annoying about this whole thing, though, and this because I don't know what your feelings, how close you are with Donald Trump, but before 2016, everybody loved Donald Trump. We talk about it. You have some iconic episodes on Howard Stern's show. Howard Stern used to call him Mr. Trump and would kiss his derriere when he'd have him on to give him the utmost respect. And then the guy runs for president and he hates his guts. So it's kind of funny how everybody all of a sudden in the Hollywood media hates the guy when that they used to love him. You'd be honored to have had him on your shows, before 2016. Any celebrity and talk show host would.
Oh my God, yes. So you're I'm more moderate than you are, but we are both Howard Stern fans and fans of his career and what he's done. I value every appearance I had the great pleasure of doing on that show. It was good fun, really interesting. He's an unbelievably good interviewer, clairvoyant in terms of his ability to sit and attune to another person. I'm imagining it's because he spent so much time on the couch himself, but he's different politically than you. How do you reconcile that?
Well, politically, he used to be very libertarian, and then all of a sudden now he's giving softball interviews to Joe Biden when we know that he has cognizant, issues. I thought that was terrible, and that's not the Howard of old. But you just made a good point. Howard Stern used to be the most cutting edge, a razor sharp guy. Then he starts to go to therapy 4 times a week. Isn't that a little too much? I mean, some psychoanalysis is good, but 4 times in 1 week seems overkill.
Psychoanalysis is a really interesting thing. I don't want to denigrate it. I think it's a wonderful thing, and if you want to explore the human psyche through your own experience, it's a really interesting way to go. But in terms of having real clinical utility, not much. You'll enjoy this. Can you see what's on my screen here?
Yeah, but who's
Adam
calling? I can't see
me.
Oh, Al, the legend. Wow, wow.
So
well, you probably got to answer that. Are you going to put him on Do Not Disturb?
I don't know. No, I'm not going to do it. It never works. It never works when I put him on here.
No.
But psychoanalysis, used to be the only the thus saith the Lord authority in psychiatric medicine. They had psychoanalysts had complete grip on the American psychiatric system. The only country in the world that really did that. French a little bit, but even Austria let go of it. Germany let go of it because it didn't really help people that much. And now we have subdisciplines and disciplines for very targeted kinds of therapies that really do work. Psychoanalysis has become almost just more of an exploratory experience. I do believe it did help him. Remember, I did a narcissistic inventory on him, and his narcissism was relatively mild.
I had to cut you off. Yes, but I had to cut you off because I've taken one of those narcissistic tests. I had to do it for some, TV show casting. I don't know if I took the same one as Howard, but if you take those tests, you can kind of answer it so you don't sound like a psycho, right? I mean, you can kind of cheat those. I know you're going to give me the doctor answered. No, you can't. But did you give him the one where you answer like 600 questions? Which personality and narcissism test did he take?
No. This was the narcissistic personality inventory. It's like 30 questions. It's forced choices. You come
can't
into both choices.
You're telling me though, Dr. Drew, you can't cheat it. You can't just kind of answer what would a non-crazy person would say.
Well, some of it you can a little bit, but that also shows up in our measurements. But the questions are designed in such a way that you either think I'm neither of these or I'm both of these. But what you choose actually has predictive meaning. Does that make sense?
Oh, wow. Yes, kind of. Yeah. I mean, I guess you think you have more options, but you really don't. Well, Howard Stern, though, let's not. I love Howard Stern. He's the greatest radio broadcaster ever, and I'm good friends with Bubba the Love Sponge, who used to be on his network. So, I'm a diehard Howard Stern fan. But when it comes to his politics, I'm not that worried about it. But when I see the psychoanalysis all the time, I'm kind of like, I feel like you get in your head.
You think the psychoanalyst?
Once a week is good. 4 times a week. I mean, what's the point of having a wife? What's the point of having a dog? Go for a walk. I know he exercises. You know what I mean? I mean, how much do you want to talk to this person? It seems, like I said just a second ago, it seems like overkill. And I think Howard Stern is one of the most brilliant people in the world. So if he's doing it 4 days a week, and I'm like, should I go get psychoanalyzed? But I'm also, I don't know if I would do good. I don't know. I'm too much of a head case.
I don't think you do so well with that. No, I don't think you'd like that.
I would not.
You have to be suitable for psychoanalysis, and I don't think you'd dig it. But anyway, the point about psychoanalysis is that it eventually got supplanted by more evidence-based therapeutics and things, and psychiatry anchored itself more in medicine, but then it became too sort of biologically inclined where they've lost track of everything else. But anyway, it's coming back to a better place. Look, psychiatry has done horrible things. I worked in a psychiatric hospital for all those years that was like a museum of psychiatry. When I arrived there in the early 80s, all the therapeutics that were so awful were in evidence because those patients were still in the hospitals from the 40s and 50s and even the 60s. Things like lobotomies and cingulotomies, and they did insulin shock therapy and parainfluenza shock therapy and dialyzing evil humors away from the schizophrenic patient. It's just crazy stuff. And I still saw some crazy stuff even in the 80s. But it's the point is humility, and let's all be humble in our approach to the biological system and the spiritual entity that is the human being. That's a really important part of this. But let me just finish up with Elon. So I just want to say that many, if not most, really successful people are sort of hypomanic. Have you noticed that? They only sleep 4 hours a night, and they can do lots of things. And then when in their free time, they go hang gliding and stuff. That's hypomania. Trump had some of that, but it's an asset unless it flips into depression or mania. And I'm fearful that Elon kind of and by the way, I'm a huge fan of his. I think I loved his biography. I love everything he's doing. I'm just so grateful for the work he has done. He's relentless. And he knows more about manufacturing than probably anybody in the world right now. But he may have flipped into a little bit of a manic episode in which place they're inflated and they're irritable and they really don't sleep. Did a substance do that? I don't know. I don't care. He's not an addict. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried that he just is in a state that he's not going to like when he comes down from.
Well, Dr. Drew, and I would say this about both Elon Musk and Donald Trump, both smart, but aren't they both a little impulsive, right? Wouldn't that so could this just be maybe they're a little impulsive, he kind of misspoke, and now he wants to walk it back a little? No? Is that not a good description?
Yes. No, it is, because that's one of the features of hypomania. They're kind of impulsive, right? And when they get into manic episodes, they're very impulsive. And then if you throw Asperger's on top of that, you might not really appreciate the social consequences of some of the things you do. Now we got a pretty interesting soup on our hands. I just hope it all kind of settles down. But AOC said the girls are fighting. What do you think about? She seems so delighted that they were having a conflict.
Well, of course. I mean, and our two gay dads divorcing on Pride Month. I mean, I'm very sad about that. But AOC, of course, she's going to take every little victory she can. But can you believe, Dr. Drew, that she's probably going to be the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party? And I think that she has a good shot in 2028. Call me crazy.
I'm calling you crazy. You think she has a good shot? I think she has a good shot being the candidate. I don't know if she has a good shot being the president.
I think she has a shot. For sure, Dr. Drew, because these people are so disconnected. You and I both know that most people, if you went in the street and asked them who's the vice president, 99% of people probably wouldn't say J.D. Vance. Yeah. So if you actually have an attractive young woman like AOC, it's kind of like the Donald Trump effect. After Donald Trump, yes, we think the Republicans are going to have the power. That's what we would kind of speculate. But oftentimes the pendulum swings. And somebody like AOC, who is charismatic, young, vivacious. Now she's experienced. I'm just telling you, I thought Donald Trump had a 0% chance. I thought he had a 0% chance, and now, in my opinion, he's won 3 elections. So I would not put it past AOC to at least put up a fighting chance if she does run for president.
Yeah. Did you do you listen to Scott Adams at all?
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's so sad to hear about his diagnosis. Obviously, we talked about it on our show or my show.
Yeah. So he has been saying AOC is a very good persuader and has game, as they say, and he's been and he's not a supporter, but he just thought that this, like you're saying, that she has a good chance of doing some stuff. But what do you think about the Democrats looking for their Joe Rogan? It's so interesting. They just seem completely lost in terms of what the experience of the young male is that drives them to Alex Stein or a Joe Rogan.
Well, what drives them to me is because I kind of I look up to those shock jock guys, but they had it. We just talked about him all episode. They had Howard Stern, the greatest interviewer of all time, and Howard is just not the cultural icon that he once was. So it's kind of like, who's going to come up? Bill Maher, but Bill Maher he's not Howard. You know what I mean? And he's not Joe Rogan. So they do need a right Joe Rogan, but it's just, you can't make a carbon copy. We're not going to have the left's version. It's going to be some more different amalgamation, like this Hassan, is coming up. It's going to be somebody else. But when it comes to podcasts, there's some stand-up comedian that was talking about it, and they act like every podcast is right-wing. Trust me, there's a lot of liberal podcasts out there, so give me a break. Yeah. It's not about the podcast. But before we go, Dr. Drew, there's one thing I want to ask you, because on Celebrity Rehab...
We're not going anywhere. We're going to be another half hour together, you and I.
Okay. Yeah. Good. But you talk a lot about, and this is to the mental health thing we're talking about, the gambling addiction. Now I see Dave Portnoy, who I like, but Dave Portnoy has the Barstool Sports, and they're basically a gambling proxy, right? That's how that's kind of how they're funded, by these gambling sites. Why don't we talk about gambling addiction and how terrible that is? I feel like that's an addiction that kind of goes under the rug. And that, I don't know, I don't remember, was there a gambling addiction on, I know that Dennis Rodman, I think other people that are on the show had issues with it, but I don't think you ever had a person that was sober other than they were just addicted to video poker or online gambling or whatever gambling they do.
No, we didn't address it specifically, but I will tell you that Bob Forrest, the guy with the hat and glasses, when he was well into his sobriety, he was on Friday afternoons going to visit the horses, telling himself that, I just need to get outside to blow off the steam, go into the midfield and just kind of hang out there. And because he's a severe addict, even though he's in recovery, it started catching. It caught up with him. Before he realized that he had a problem, and he was like, "Oh shit, I have to go to GA too." I was in denial. I didn't see it coming, and here it is. And gambling addiction. There's a guy named Bo Barnhart who runs a gambling. I think that's his name. Runs a gambling lab, and I went and visited it once, and it's fascinating. It's actually a casino where he's able to wire people's bodies and brains up and examine exactly what happens to them while they're in their throes of their gambling behaviors. And he's trying to figure out ways to sort of adjust the machines and things so they're not quite so addictive. But he's had the chance to examine a lot of gambling addicts, and gambling addiction comes in various flavors. It's not one thing like opiates. For instance, the machine addicts come in two very different flavors. One is sort of an excitement addict, and they just get reinforced enough that they get sort of drawn into it. But he has a subset that are dissociative gambling machine addicts that dissociate. He said he had two people that dissociated, meaning like they lose track of time and feelings and everything. They lose track of where they are. They're so bad, two of them had to come to the casino in diapers. They would lose.
Because they wouldn't use a restroom
so thoroughly.
Wait, what? Because they would just sit there?
They lost track of everything. They just lose track of themselves completely. They dissociate. I know. Bad. And then when you get to the tables, there are people that are sort of sociopathic gamblers that want to manipulate the system. There are people that got kind of addicted to the high of winning, which is actually a small minority. And there's a group that gets addicted to losing and debting. And they will tell you that they only... Yeah.
Now, I've heard that you have the cortisol addiction, that you can actually get addicted to losing. People don't realize that. I saw a whole video on it that you can actually, people will win and they won't feel happy. They'll want to go lose because they only get the high or the cortisol or whatever stress hormone from the loss. I think that I couldn't believe that was true.
Yeah, the way the patients will describe it, they'll go, I only feel alive if my back is against the wall. That's the only time I feel high and feel alive. And yeah, that's so this, yes, GA works, 12-step works, but it has to be identified and the consequences have to be delivered so people are able to get and do the work associated with recovery. And it's usually in the setting of other addictions, to be fair. And if it's not with a chemical addiction, there's also debting addiction, shopping addiction, all kinds of other stuff alongside of it. So in my experience, there's other stuff that coexist with gambling addiction. You got to take care of all of it. It's tough. Listen, I take a little break. Hold on. Hold your thought. We got a lot to talk about. I got a lot more I want to get into. There's somebody that asked on our Rumble Rants here about kidney transplants or something. Something about, does that sound familiar to you? I'll try to find that question if that's not something you came
No, I don't know anything about it. Yeah, I have nothing, idea. I know I got two of them.
Shamgar Connors, what's up? Can you ask Drew what he thinks about me getting kicked off the kidney transplant list because I refused the COVID vaccine? That's really interesting.
Shamgar's an audience.
All right, he's your guy, and we want to talk about it. There's a lot to get into there, and we'll be right back after this. What's so special about Paleo Valley's grass-fed and finished bone broth and superfood bars? Well, everything. All are delicious, high in nutrients, low in calories, and contain nothing artificial. Co-founder Autumn Smith on what goes into every superfood bar.
So we have bone broth protein powder, and then we've added other superfoods, cashew butter, we have spirulina in there, acerola, broccoli powder, kale, blueberries. And so it really is kind of just an infusion of superfoods with every bite.
And then there's the extraordinary bone broth protein made with an ancestral approach that boosts our collagen intake.
Collagen is something that's gone by the wayside in our modern diet because we don't eat nose to tail anymore, but it was something we ate a lot of, and it has so many benefits. So if you have sagging skin, joint pain, gut issues, your decreased bone mineral density, slow to heal your wounds, slow recovery, these are all things that collagen can dramatically improve. If we're not giving our body the building blocks to produce it, we just age more rapidly. It also improves sleep, improves blood sugar control. So it's essentially like the Swiss Army knife of healthy aging.
Like I said, Paleo Valley's bone broth is something special. Make Paleo Valley part of your longevity regimen. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 20% off when you subscribe and 15% off your first order. That is drdrew.com/Paleo Valley. The Wellness Company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and that's why they're constantly innovating to deliver the products and services to help you be rationally ready. Be sure to have the medical kit for kids on hand, whether you're a parent or grandparent. It treats 20 childhood conditions, including nausea and vomiting, allergies, asthma, inflammatory illnesses, even bioterror, God forbid. Listen, croup, ear infections, lice, it's all available in the pediatric emergency kit. You can also order the kids kit with an EpiPen should your child be at risk of anaphylaxis. And those EpiPens are carefully sourced and well priced relative to other EpiPens in the market. All 7 kits, each customized for a different purpose, come with a telemedicine consultation and a guidebook. Skip the scramble to an urgent care waiting room full of sick people and expense, or a pharmacy where there's no guarantee they'll have what you need. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off any medical emergency kit, or the supplements for that matter. That again is drdrew.com/TWC.
That's brilliant. And thank you, Drew. Where's Dr. Drew? Where is he? Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew.
Just want to point out this big boy kit at the Wellness Company we use all the time. In fact, Susan's embarrassed because we reach in it so much that it's all disorganized. But everything is in this kit, and you can get it with an EpiPen that's carefully sourced and well priced relative to other EpiPens out there. Also gear up for summer with a supply of Active Skin Repair's hydrogel spray and the spray. We have both the hydrating cream and the spray. Have it around the house. Whoops. Adults, kids, babies, little babies can use the spray or the hydrogel. As you know, our granddaughter Eloise has become our family's new spokesmodel for Active Skin Repair. I think we have a picture of her. She and her parents love it. They were using it before we got a hold of this stuff. The key ingredients is hypochlorous acid. Douglas, Susan wants the picture up there, Caleb. It's a clinically proven antimicrobial molecule. There she is. Antimicrobial used in hospitals already. It soothes and heals irritated skin, including especially diaper rash. She uses it, and it works really well for Active Skin Repair. Also works on blemishes, cuts, burns, rashes. One of the ways you and your family can be rationally ready. That's what these kits and that's what the skin repair is all about. As we like to say, our partners at Active Skin Repair also make a hyaluronic hydrating serum, which I use daily. Susan was just telling me how she used it on a burn. And when I go without it, my skin reverts to the flaky, dry skin. And I got in a panic about it when I was traveling in Europe just recently. Be sure to tune in Tuesday when Justin Gardner, the CEO and co-founder of this company, will be in the live studio with me. And we'll be watching the rants, chats, and comments. Go to drdrew.com/skin repair for 20% off what is already a great price. That is drdrew.com/skin repair for that 20% off. I almost choked on that call to action. All right, so Alex Stein, as I said, I want you to follow him everywhere. Follow him on X at AlexStein99 and YouTube, Primetime Alex Stein, Blaze TV. Alex, I really do appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your enthusiasm for the work I've done over the years. I feel like I've started to present I know you have a question I'm going to let you ask in a second, but I've begun to present myself when I do public speaking as a time traveler. Because I've done so much for so long and no, I'm not kidding, in so many different contexts. I'm like, listen, I'm a time traveler. I'm here from another era. And because of these incredible experiences I've had, I have some very strong opinions and observations. You may not agree with them, but I'm here to travel forward in time to deliver messages from the past. And so to that degree, I appreciate that you're appreciative of all these different shows I've done. I have the great pleasure of many of them having been hits, which is sort of extraordinary. Anyway, you had a question to ask me as we went to break.
Well, Shamgar is a guy that's a huge supporter of mine, kind of a little protege, actually. I didn't even realize he was in the Rumble chat, but yeah, he talked about how he could not get on, or I guess he got taken off the kidney transplant list because he didn't get the vaccine. Yep. And listen, obviously I get the flu's serious, but taking people off the heart transplant list or not giving these people transplants for a vaccine, I mean, how is that not against the Hippocratic Oath, in your opinion, Dr. Drew?
It is categorically against medical ethics and the Hippocratic Oath. I am disgusted by it. And I believe anybody who was harmed by mandates should take action. I really believe that in the strongest terms. Because not only will you be helping yourself gain restitution for the injustice that you suffered, but you will help mitigate the possibility that this should happen again. It cannot happen again. You got to understand, Alex, public health is in direct opposition to the practice of medicine, a doctor helping a patient. Public health comes out of really socialism, really. It's this sense that we are going to, from on high, centralize and take over and do the good of everybody. That is how social harms are always and only done in the name of doing good. Do you think the people that followed Hitler thought they were doing bad? They believed they were doing good. It's always in the name of doing good. And this is the problem that people have still not gotten through their head.
Yeah, but Dr. Drew, and you're a guy that, like you said, you're a time traveler. You've been, you've seen everything. You've seen MERS, you've seen sudden acute respiratory syndrome. There's been serious respiratory illnesses, and I think I don't have this data, but you can probably see a chart that we're going to have another one of these. It's going to be up to us on how we respond to it. But a lot of people are like you, or they're freedom fighters, or however you want to define yourself. I'm just saying you're willing to go against the grain and speak out against the mainstream media. But most people, Dr. Drew, going back to the pandemic, they liked being locked in their house. They liked not having to go into work because they didn't like their coworkers. They liked getting a $600 check because they wanted to pay for their Netflix or whatever. Most people are so disconnected, and we're all on the dating apps, which are so superficial and disconnecting. I'm just saying, we're so disconnected that people like the pandemic because you didn't have to see people and you had a good excuse for it, and you weren't called weird or, a loner for doing it.
I do agree with you. There were people that liked it, but I'm hard pressed to imagine it was a minority. Just look at the mental health consequences on young people. Just looking at them, you don't even if you sort of were neutral on the lockdown and the excesses, you look at what it's done to young people. Doesn't it make you go and stop and think maybe that was a little excessive? So I don't know. I have a little more faith in that, but there are people that did like it and do love wearing masks and whatever it is that is being offered up to them. I don't understand that person. I also don't understand the person that wants to tell people how to live their life. I don't understand that at all.
Well, I mean, you go back to the mask too. That was such a virtue signal, as if the mask stopped transmission of a virus. I mean, it's just so laughable, but that's why I'm very frustrated because, I obviously told you about my mother. My mom got vaccinated. She had to. My mom didn't want to get vaccinated. She had to continue to see her general doctor because, she was on like 3 different prescription medications. She didn't want to get off those medications. So she got vaccinated, and she still got COVID, of course. And then when she went into the hospital, they treated her like she was, like she was almost already dead. They just didn't want to go in the room. They thought I was crazy for I was allowed to have a certain amount of time with my mom every day, even in the ICU. I was allowed to go in there for 4 hours. They'd make me put on all the gear. But they thought, but I'm saying, but they thought, that's true. They thought I was crazy for going in there. They looked at me like, you want to sit in that room? I'm like, yeah, my mom is sitting here dying. Why would I not want to go sit in it? But that's what frustrated me is they literally looked at me like I was crazy. They were scared to walk in these rooms. And I get that the flu is bad, but I mean, this is where you work in a hospital. Like, you shouldn't be scared to walk into this room. So I don't know. I get so, and I'm not mad. Like, I'm not mad at the doctors. I don't want vengeance on them. I do think that they didn't want my mom to die, but they also, if my mom died, it benefited their narrative. So there wasn't the same sort of incentive that they didn't kill my mom, but they didn't want to keep my mom alive. That's how I feel. I feel like they were indifferent to my mom's outcome. And that's why I'm so mad. And that's why I'm against a lot of our healthcare system because of that.
Well, you're putting your finger on something you may not be aware of also, which is we have trained a league of physicians and maybe some nurses too that have forgotten their professionals and their professional ethics. We, in my era, we took care of AIDS patients. We didn't know how that was transmitted. We ran into those rooms. I've been exposed to tuberculosis. I've been exposed to horrible bacteria. I've been exposed to everything. I took steps to mitigate my risk, but I did not hesitate to do my job and walk in there as I was supposed to. And certain amount of risk is always come with the practice of medicine as it pertains to infectious diseases. And the fact
Dr. Drew, Dr. Drew, there were HIV doctors, though. You were great, but that said they wouldn't work on HIV patients. So I'm just saying, you bring that up. That was kind of what was happening during COVID. There's other people like, oh man, this woman has COVID. I don't want to go in there. I'm a doctor. I got all these medical bills, and I got a degree from St. John's. And I don't want to. I'm saying, so just like, and I know you were very magnanimous for working on people during HIV, but I believe, wasn't there a civil rights or lawsuit that made doctors work on HIV patients because so many doctors were saying, no, I don't want to do this. So it's like, have we changed that much from the HIV pandemic to now, where they didn't want to work on them then, to where they? I'm sorry, I'm going so crazy, but I just see some correlation.
No, I do think we've changed that much. Remember, I'm talking about my generation of physicians. So my generation, we ran into the fire. We thought we had something really important we were doing. The previous generation, the older physicians, really were just scared. They didn't know how to manage it. They didn't know what to do. And so they just sort of stepped back and we jumped in. I don't think it was that they were afraid of it. I really don't. I just think they were afraid of frankly, their incompetence when it came to how to manage an incredibly complicated disorder that was evolving on a daily basis. And so they bowed out, and we had no problem with that. We didn't think of them as cowards at the time. We thought of them as incompetent, and we just went in and did our work. And the fact that you would turn down or tell a patient to come back when they're blue, it's just an astonishing shift. And so there's really something going on there that we have to kind of address as a profession. It's just, then they were all employed by somebody and they were listening to their employer, not their professional instincts. And oh my God, so many bad things happened during that. And if we don't work to correct it, shame on us, shame on us. But I do think part of it is guys like Shamgar, is that his name, Shamgar, need to take action to get restitution. There's no excuse for what happened there. There's no excuse. And we didn't know better. That's not an excuse any longer, because some people did know better. They were just told to shut up. And that's again, anathema to the good practice of medicine and the practice of science.
Well, and this brings me kind of to my next point, though, and there is a correlation. We've been talking a lot about Howard Stern, and this is a subject, and you're in California, you don't want to talk about it too much, but Howard used to have Dr. Sal Calabro. He would give people free breast implants. I don't know if you remember that. That was a, iconic thing.
No, I don't.
Sometimes that was kind of the Jackie era, maybe right after. And then sometimes he would have transgenders come on the show. And this was early 2000s, late 90s. And sometimes the transgenders would compete for breast implants, and he would give them if they won the contest or whatever. But oftentimes he would ask them, hey, are you going to get bottom surgery? And this is in the early 2000s, and they would always say, I can't get bottom surgery. I have to go to Venezuela, or I have to go to Bolivia. So, Dr. Drew, what is your professional opinion? Now, you can go to any clinic anywhere and get gender reassignment surgery. And just 20 years ago, they said that you're not going to have any sexual pleasure if you get it. It's not going to, your reproductive ability is obviously gone. So, can you explain the change in 20 years? If our medical care system is about taking care of us, helping us through COVID, now 20 years ago, that medical hair would not have cut off your genitals and given you gender reassignment surgery, and now you can get it done in any major city in America. Isn't that kind of a huge shift in your opinion, Dr. Drew?
It is obviously a huge shift. You set me up for that one. Yes, it's a huge shift. But let me tell you, once again, your instinct for where the trouble is keen. I have said from the beginning, the problem with the biggest problem, I don't have a strong opinion on any of this, except to say that I know when my profession is mishandling things. I know when things are out of alignment, let's say. And the fact that my profession is, as you say, so liberally applying a certain approach to a disorder where the outcomes are not that well understood, that is a problem. And so really what we as a profession need to do is be able to select the right patient for the right treatment. And that is not an easy thing to do. And it's not one size fits all. And it's not whatever the patient says it is. That's how we got into trouble with pain management. Pain management, the pain world said, pain is whatever the patient says it is. Pain control is whatever the patient says it is. That's how you kill people. That's how you damage people. We have a role to play. We are the objective body there to protect the patient and to provide the services that give the best outcome. The patient is not, patient's a participant, but he or she is not the sole arbiter of what the medical intervention should be. So to your point, the excesses are the problem. We should have very skilled, very specific ways of assessing who needs what and who doesn't need what and when they need what. And the fact that everyone's getting everything all the time when they want it, I know, look, same thing as I have a problem with GLP-1 inhibitors too. They're being overused. Whenever anything is being overdone by the medical society, you see harm to people. And now, because they did that with the opiates, now you can't get pain meds for a patient. We always, when pendulum goes, we never do the sensible thing. But so there will be some sort of reckoning, I'm sure of it.
Ozempic is less bad than opiates. So I mean, I'm not on Ozempic, but I know Ozempic probably has terrible side effects. But I mean, what is it? It's a diabetic drug. If you're 300 pounds, you're probably better off on Ozempic than not on it. Wouldn't you say? I mean, I would say that it's probably healthier.
Just like,
it's not good for a skinny person.
Alex is saying,
yeah.
That's right. But Alex, just like if somebody has cancer pain and is going to die, they're better off on opiates. Lots of them. Yeah. Even if they're an addict, they are better off on opiates. I now struggle to get my patients who are recovering addicts pain control when they have cancer because of this craziness that gets into my profession. So your instincts on this are good. So keep an eye on it. You're right. But the way this stuff gets worked through is, frankly, the legal system and the scientific discourse, which has largely been silenced, but it's sort of wakening up again.
Well, Dr. Drew, and this kind of brings you to the last question. I mean, kind of just an important question when it comes to this pain management. What about in Canada, the medically assisted suicide? I mean, is that a good thing? I mean, I would say if you really were like, I feel like intuitively, I feel like I'm against it. But I don't think if you have a mental health disorder, you should go get it because you have depression. And I see there has been cases where that's happening. But if you have a terrible cancer that's eating you out from the inside out and you're in pain, and 10 out of 10 every second, then it seems like it might be justifiable in that case.
That's right. And so to your point, I think we have it here in California. It's a little cumbersome how you get it, but it should be something that patients and physicians can get on behalf of the patient. But you're referencing Canada, where people like that woman that got the transverse myelitis from the vaccine who can't get adequate care from the government after they damaged her. She now has been repeatedly encouraged to get assisted suicide, even though she loves life and doesn't want to die and has no interest in that. She just wants help getting about because she has quadriplegia now from the vaccine. And so, the excesses and the, you're getting me quite upset because these excesses, when things move away from the physician-patient and have political energy around them, it's just disturbing. There's no more effective unit than the patient and the physician. Let them figure this shit out. And as much as possible, get it into the hands of the patient to do things with the physician's support. Don't come in from on high. Don't have a social agency tell you should consider assisted suicide. Don't have a social worker help you if you're on the streets, because a social worker is not trained to treat drug addicts. That the most severe drug addicts are on our streets. You can't get any more severe than it putting you out on the streets and you're dying on the sidewalk. That requires the highest level of psychiatric care. There's no more serious and difficult problem to treat. A social worker, God bless them, and I love social workers. They're trained to do a lot of things, not that. So anyway,
well, Dr. Drew,
you got me going.
Well, Dr. Drew, though, have you seen? I forget the name of the documentary where they'll go find homeless people, they'll give them an apartment, and they'll give them $1,200 a month, universal basic income, and they'll still 3 months later they'll go be on the street because they just want to be on the street. I'm saying they'll have everything. They have a little apartment they can go into, but they'd rather. So what is that when it comes to the homeless? It's just they want to be out there. They just want to be free. They don't even want to take care of an apartment. What is that mental health?
That is mental illness. That is my patients, the drug addicts, want to be on the streets because that's where they get high. That's where it's happening. That's where it's just, they're in the party. They're out there they're using their drugs. Schizophrenics get very affected by the four walls. It's hard for them to be in four walls. Watch the movie The Soloist sometime with Robert Downey Jr. It's a great exploration of how difficult it is. It's a little skewed in his point of view, but it's a great exploration of how difficult it is to treat schizophrenics and how our system fails them so badly, so badly. Hundreds of thousands of people have died. And right now, what do we do in California? We give them the rigs and we give them the opiates, and that leaves out the understanding that this is a progressive disease in all settings. It progresses to death. And whether it's a nurse administering the heroin or you're giving it to yourself as a junkie, it progresses until death. Always. That's it. And they leave that out and they are killing people. It is negligent manslaughter, if not murder.
Well, I agree with you on that. And you look at the fentanyl crisis. I lost my good friend, Clark Gable's grandson, was a host of Cheaters, died of a fentanyl overdose. And it's just like, it doesn't seem, I'm just saying when the potency of these drugs, and I know I'm a little more black pilled. That means I have a little more of a negative outlook. Not that the world is bad, but how could you even have a society, Dr. Drew, with potent fentanyl that costs $5 that a kid can just die? I mean, it's just so scary, the amount of overdose deaths. It's just, I feel like it's only going to get worse. Is there going to be a time where there's 1 million overdose deaths? When the fentanyl time, when fentanyl X comes out and you just have 1 grain of it, it kills you, because that's next, isn't it? Isn't that the natural progression of this? There's going to be drugs so strong, you just take it one time and you instantly die, and people are probably going to take it. I mean, I know that sounds insane, but I don't think that that's as far-fetched as people might think.
It is not as far-fetched as you might think. It is certainly the way things progress. Your insight in that is good. But what breaks my heart is these are treatable illnesses. These are treatable conditions. Mm-hmm. But you must create consequences, and you must ask addicts to do something. They have to be urged to do, because in their disease, they don't see what's happening. They want to do one thing: use drugs. That's it. That's all they're interested in. Period. End of story. And it's a disorder that makes them that way. But listen, enough of my on the soapbox stuff. People, I think, know there's 950%. Put that up there again, Caleb. 950% rise in fentanyl trafficking since 2017. Of course. But look, my wife would say I suspect China, because this is retribution for the opium wars. Be that as it may, tell me about your show and what you're doing there, what people can find there, and what you're looking forward to talking about, and why people should show up.
Well, thank you, Dr. Drew. Like I said, this is a kind of a surreal moment. It's always a pleasure talking to an iconic figure like yourself. And guys, I'm Primetime Alex Stein. I got a show on The Blaze. You can watch it Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then if you guys want to see me, I'll be speaking at the Turning Point USA. It's a big event in Tampa, July 9th through the 11th. So other than that, come watch my show. And like I said, Dr. Drew, thank you for all the hard work you put in and continue to do. I don't think there's another guy that works as hard as you in show business. Not even Jimmy Kimmel, not Adam Carolla, none of those guys. I don't think those guys work as hard as you, Dr. Drew. So thank you for having me. It's a real
very
honor.
Kind. So I'm not done with you. So tell me about Turning Point, and can people are you still doing stand-up?
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, I'm speaking, yes, and I'll be performing on the 29th in Dallas, and you can see me on the 21st in Tampa. You can go to AlexOn99 on Twitter. You can see my dates. And guys, if you can't find me on the internet, you're not looking, because I'm the Haitian sensation from Dallas, Texas, Dr. Drew. I go in there and I go to these town hall meetings and I confront these politicians. And I'll tell you this much, Dr. Drew, being bold, these people that are struggling with depression and anxiety that are watching this, I would tell them this. Yeah. Being bold and living unapologetically yourself and trying to take care of yourself, through exercise and eating healthy. Those are the 4 main things that you can do to live a happy life. Because once you start living unapologetically yourself and not worrying about the opinions of others like you did during the COVID, I feel like it truly gives you freedom and gives you purpose and makes your life feel a lot more gratifying. So I encourage people to do that.
So I hear you saying 2 things: is find your meaning and lean into it. Mm-hmm. And live authentically, which has always been, every philosopher of the existentialists certainly have advocated that authenticity is the key goal to living.
I agree. And that's the thing, is people they try to fake it. They worry about their peers and the opinions. And I think the pandemic actually helped people break out of their shell. And it helped, it helped a lot of people. It hurt a lot of people. That this is so crazy, because I lost my mother. And I do think that it was a net benefit, that we learned a lot from this, and that me being, a little paranoid earlier, I actually do think that the next time they try to do this, it's going to be a lot different outcome, and they're not going to be able to do the same kind of bamboozle and trickery that they did on us in the last pandemic.
I hope so. And it also exposed the depths of what's going on in the bureaucratic entanglements in Washington, and how wrong-headed so many of those things are. And one last thing about the upcoming pandemic. Look, we had H1N1 10 years before COVID. And the Obama administration elected not to make a big deal out of it. They let the CDC advise physicians. They did their pandemic preparedness, and it killed 300,000 people, and it ran its course. I had it. It was brutal. H1N1 was brutal. What I kept saying when COVID broke out is, why do you have to shut the world down for this one while we just had one 10 years ago and you don't even realize it happened? You had no idea it happened, but it was a bad pandemic. We had one, and you're not aware of it. Isn't there an intermediate zone where we could go and protect the vulnerable and take reasonable precautions? All those things that the Great Barrington Declaration suggested, which seemed like reasonable alternatives, and ended up being something that was worthy of a, quote, devastating takedown. Devastating takedown. Fauci, Francis Collins' words to Fauci about Jay Bhattacharya. Well, guys, Jay is now in charge of the NIH. Let's see what that, what do they call them, fringe epidemiologists can do for us. It's you make me, Alex. You get me all worked up. This is I'm not usually this.
I know. I'm prime time. I get the energy going, Dr. Drew. I know how to mix things up, but you're a reality TV superstar, so quit. Don't even act like, you know what I mean. You know how to turn it on and off. You're a superstar, but this is the one thing is, Dr. Drew. One thing I keep saying, the one thing, I'm passionate and you're passionate, so I think that's why when we're on together, that energy comes together and it becomes synergistic, like when Tom Sizemore would do cocaine and heroin. Very synergistic.
I don't necessarily want you to continue that analogy, but let's get together again sometime.
I'll end that analogy. Rest in peace. I love Tom Sizemore. No disrespect, but you know what I mean. Too. We're the speedball metaphor.
We're the speedball. You can call us the speedball. I think calling us the speedball is a reasonable thing. All right. Okay, my friend. We'll talk to you very soon. There's talk of me coming to Dallas too. Somebody just proposed, so I might even do that. So I'd come to you in person. Yeah,
and we'll have you on all the shows. We'll roll out the red carpet, Dr. Drew. If you could come to the Blaze Studios in Las Colinas, it's beautiful. The old Paramount Studios where they filmed JFK with Oliver Stone, Adam's Family Values. We'll roll out the red carpet if you come to North Texas. We'd love it to have you in Dallas.
All right. I want to try to do that, my friend. All right, good to talk to you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it very much.
See ya.
Cheers. All right, let me just click a little bit. Look at your guys. I'm looking at Mandingo is a Alex fan. Thank you for that. I'm also looking at the rants. You guys are active today, but you're going off in different directions that I don't quite understand. Sorry, Janice Perkins, we didn't tell you the show was early today. We normally don't do a show on Friday. We did announce it yesterday, but do check it out. It was an interesting conversation with Alex, and we do have a show coming up on Tuesday. However, in addition to the active skin repair guy, I don't think has Emily booked that yet. I know there were several people possible.
I think she's working on who's going to be on the show that day.
She's very particular, and so we'll have somebody, no doubt. And there's Mark Chankisi, who is the guy that really pointed at the fact that social ill is always done in the name of good. And then DC Drano, Salty Cracker. This is all next week. And then Dr. Meneke coming in to talk about her new study and how difficulty she had getting it published, even though it was a very, very interesting and important study. All right. Thank you all for being here. I don't think I have anything else. Caleb, do you have anything else on? I want to make sure I check with it. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go back to the start. Go put on your Loveline hat and give some advice for these two alpha males, two of the most powerful men on the planet right now. How can they, let's assume that this is a real feud and it's not 5 or 6D chess going on here. What can these guys do to repair this relationship?
I would tell Donald Trump to sit tight and think about all the good he's done and the affectionate relationship they had that can easily be restored. Something is wrong. Something has happened. Let's give Elon a chance to reconstitute. And then on Elon's side, he would need a full evaluation. We got to find what's going on there. Something happened, something changed. And it's not just about the threat of debt, and it's not just about his subsidies being pulled, though I'm sure that may have sort of triggered some of this. That may have, been the sort of the kindling for it. Something else is going on, I humbly believe. And Elon Musk, I don't know him, but I'm the biggest fan, and I do believe he'll come through this okay. So with that, I'll see you next Tuesday at 2:00 Pacific time. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.